You're the answer to it all, Jesus. You wipe away our tears. You mend the broken heart. You're the answer to it all, Jesus. Hey, waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. Hey, waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. I used to strip it down, it's a part of God's plan. Precious Lord, take my hand, carry me to victory. I need your presence, live in me. My testimony makes me free. Let me tell my story, increase my territory. My goal to let the world know how trustworthy He is for sure. If y'all trust Him, I just need you to worship Him right now. I've been through so much, but He just keeps on just saving me and just carrying me along. I trust Him. Lord, I trust you. Hey, you love me more than I can love myself. Yeah, with my family, my finance, and my health.
Raise your hand if you've heard the term keeping it 100. Good. I ain't got to explain it to the whole room. When people say I'm going to keep it 100, that's how they say it. They don't even say the R. Right. They usually mean they're going to keep it real. That's what that means. I'm going to keep it real or 100% real. And I'm here to tell you that that is a lie. That is not true. Whoever told you that, the closest they'll get to 100 is what I call 80-20. That's it. 80% of what they give you will be real. It might be real and 100 and true, but the other 20% is always suspect every time. Never changes, never fails, even for people who think they know. They don't know until something happens. The only person, and it's not even really a person, the only thing on this world, this planet, outside the planet, that can keep it 100 is God. Yeah. Amen? Amen. The only one that can tell you something and know that it's 100% true and real is God. There is not a person. I'm standing in front of you right now. I'm keeping it real with you. I don't have 100%. Right? I'm 80-20. Some of y'all know some people that's the opposite. Is 20% real, 80% suspect, and I know a few too. Everything they tell you, 80% of you like, I can't believe nothing you say. The rule of thumb with people is you have to hold on to what's real and get rid of the suspect. Don't hold on to the suspect. So try to find some folks that's more 80 than 20. I'm just saying. It helps out. So with God, when He puts out a vision, and the sermon series that we're going into for me, all the ones I wrote were about vision, because this year is all about vision. It's 2020 vision. It's like something everybody's going to be doing, and every church is going to be preaching 2020 vision. We came up with it 7 years ago, though, so they can't say we was riding the wave. No. We were talking about 2020 vision back in 2013. Okay? We'll get to that a little bit later on in the sermon. But God is omnipresent. How many people know that God is past, present, and future? Yeah. You have to know the future in order to give somebody the truth and for it to remain the truth in the future. We're going to get into the book of Joshua. We're going to talk about Joshua. Last sermon I talked about Moses, but Moses didn't make it to the promised land. You see, God gave a vision to Moses. And Moses took that vision and it was 80-20 until Moses figured out that I don't have a choice. It's God. It's God. So I got to see this vision all the way through, even though He says I will never see the promised land. I will die in the desert. So be it. That 80-20 became 100% for Moses. But for the people that came with Moses, they were that 20-80. They were 20% we're with you, 80%. We don't like this. They were coming out of slavery with a slavery mentality that they could not release, that generation. And they said, we'd rather 80% be slaves in Egypt than 20% depend on a God we can't see. Wow. Even though He's done all this great stuff for us. Well, there were two young men. One was Joshua, one was Caleb. We'll get into Caleb my next sermon. Today's about Joshua. That they flipped it. They said, we're going to give you our 80-20, Moses. They go, we're young. We're not your generation. But we're going to rock with you until we can go no further. And when that 20 comes in, we'll just have to figure it out. They said, we're going to ride with you in God's vision 80%, and that 20 we'll just have to figure it out with faith. We're going to go to Joshua chapter 24. I'm going to be reading from the NIV version. Joshua chapter 24. Now, prior to this chapter, Moses has explained to this generation that they won't be crossing over the promised land, but that the next generation, their children, who are now adults, they're now in their 20s and 30s, are going to cross over and have to fight for their land. You can't just walk into somebody's territory and say, hey, God told me this was mine. I believe him 100%, so you got to go. It doesn't work that way. You got to fight for what you want, right? Right. So you've got 300 to 600,000 Hebrews coming out of the desert, a Hebrew army, and their leader, Moses, is about to die. He looks at Joshua, he looks at Caleb and said, it's yours now. You guys have to finish this vision. Caleb comes out of the desert with another man's vision that he was looking at 80-20. And I can prove that because when he gets to the promised land, he makes some mistakes in his battle. He makes some assumptions. Instead of being 100% in God's vision, that 20% a suspect, he says, I'm not going to do what God told me for 1 or 2 times and see what happens. Because I think we could win no matter what. There's a battle called Ai. If you read up in Joshua, they don't do so well in some of these battles. And then Joshua gets rebuked and he goes, you know what, Lord, I'm sorry. That 20% suspect came back to bite me. We lost a couple battles, but we can still win the war because you are a forgiving God. Thank you. I'm back to 100%. So, right now they've crossed over the Jordan. They're in the promised land, and then by chapter 24, they've conquered it. You've got all 12 tribes at this point in the promised land, and Joshua is addressing the Israelites for the last time as their leader. He's saying, I will no longer need to lead you. I can live my own life now because we're here. That promised vision of a promised land for our people, we're in it. So he's going to run down some things and he's going to talk about it. We're going to start from verse 1, Joshua chapter 24, the covenant renewed at Shechem. It says, then Joshua assembled all the tribes of Israel at Shechem. He summoned the elders, the leaders, the judges, the officials of Israel. They presented themselves before God. Joshua said to the people, this is what the Lord your God, the God of Israel, says. Long ago, your ancestors, including Terah, the father of Abraham and Nahor, lived beyond the Euphrates River and worshipped other gods. But I took your father Abraham from the land beyond the Euphrates and led them throughout Canaan and gave him many descendants. I gave him Isaac, and to Isaac I gave Jacob and Esau. I assigned the hill country of Seir to Esau, but Jacob and his family went down to Egypt. Then I sent Moses and Aaron, and I afflicted the Egyptians by what I did there, and I brought you out of slavery and bondage. When I brought your people out of Egypt, you came to the sea, and the Egyptians pursued them with chariots and horsemen as far as the Red Sea. But they cried to the Lord for help, and he put darkness between you and the Egyptians. He brought the sea over them and covered them. You saw with your own eyes what I did to the Egyptians. God speaking to the people through Joshua. Then you lived in the wilderness for a long time, 40 years. I brought you to the land of the Amorites who lived in the Jordan. They fought against you, but I gave them into your hands. I destroyed them from before you, and you took possession of their land. When Balak, the son of Zippor, the king of Moab, prepared to fight against Israel, he sent for Balaam, son of Beor. Remember Balaam and the donkey? Anybody remembers that story? To put a curse on you. But I would not listen to Balaam. So he blessed you again, and I delivered you out of his hand. Then you crossed the Jordan and came to Jericho, the walls of Jericho, marching around 7 times, the trumpets, the walls come down. The Israelites come over, they take that. Then you come over, then you cross into the walls of Jericho. The citizens of Jericho fought against you, as did also the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. But I gave them into your hands. I sent the hornet ahead of you, which drove them out before you. Also the 2 Amorite kings. You did not do with your own hand and sword and bow what I did. So I gave you a land on which you did not toil, and cities that you did not build. And you live in them and eat from the vineyards and olive groves that you did not plant. Now, this is what we would like to call receipts. People that have heard that term, what are the receipts? This is Joshua running down a list of what God did. That same God that you can't see, that same God that you can't hear, but is speaking through prophets. That God that you're either going to give 80% real, I believe you, trustworthy, or 20% real and the rest is suspect. He's saying, how can you argue with that? Things that you've physically seen and are living in a city that you did not build, that was given to you by a God that you didn't even know. Okay? He said that's how real it is. I am 40 years old. There are things that I promise y'all I knew 100%. And I was keeping it real with people because I knew 100%. But I am still 80-20. Even when you think you're 100, I promise you're 80-20. We're having a post-Christmas meal. Myself, she's not here today, but it was Julie and her kids, Joel, one of our deacons, and his family were coming in from out of town. And we're sitting at the table, and I don't remember exactly how it came up, but we get into the discussion about toilet paper. Toilet paper. Now, when I say I don't know how it came up, that means I brought it up, because I'm keeping it real with y'all, keeping it 100. I brought it up. And I was explaining to them that recently at work, we had an issue with our vendor. If you guys have used a public bathroom, they usually have these little seat cover things behind the toilet or on the side, and you're supposed to pull it out. Who can tell me how you're supposed to use it once you pull it out? Who's brave enough? Go ahead, sir. What do you do with the toilet seat cover once you pull it out? Put it on the seat. Now, these toilet seat covers actually have this little perforated center. It's hard to explain. You're supposed to break the perforation, right? And then what happens to the center when you break the perforation? Falls down in the bowl. My complaint, our complaint at work was, as soon as it hits the water in the bowl, it starts to slowly pull off the seat. Yeah. Therefore, you have like half a second to hurry up and sit down before, and sometimes you don't make it. Sometimes you sit down and all you feel is cold seat. That means you weren't fast enough. We have tried putting multiple seat covers. Welcome. Welcome. Come on in. God bless you. The Watts Novice, you guys made it. It's good to have you. We've tried multiple seat covers at one time. We said if you stack up 5 of them, maybe they won't fall so bad. Right? We've tried taking it and moving it the other way because somebody said, oh, you're doing it wrong. The flap's supposed to be in the front. You're supposed to fall down in the front. That didn't work. As soon as it hits the water, it still pulls in. All 5 of them pulled in. You got half a second to sit down before it pulls in. We're talking about seat covers in public bathrooms, if you're wondering, in the word of Joshua. So, it pulls in, and you're like, okay. And then somebody, I don't know, it might have been my wife, was like, you're supposed to do it sideways. Turn it sideways and let the flap fall down the side. Same issue. As soon as it hits the water pulls it down and it does not work. We're at this table talking, and Joel's father, he's like, well, I don't know why you guys are using that. And I'm like, what's funny, a spiritual leader of mine told me that it was all propaganda and that it was never meant to be that way and that you've been told wrong your whole life. He goes, you're supposed to take toilet paper, which is right by the bowl, rip it off and place it on top of the bowl. That's what I do. Okay, I'm so glad somebody else said that, co-sign, because when my spiritual leader told me this, a man that I trust, love, and respect, I'm staring at him like, you done lost your mind. I'm like, why would you take toilet paper? Now, I'm 40 years old. Why would you take toilet paper and put it on the bowl? You don't do that. I go, the toilet paper is for you. Somebody told you wrong, spiritual leader. He goes, oh, you are mistaken. He goes, why do you think it's called toilet paper? And I'm like, yeah, I know, my head's kind of exploding because I'm like, wait a minute, wait, hold up now. He goes, think about it, because they would have called it body paper or body whatever. It's called toilet tissue because you put tissue on the toilet. And I'm sitting there like, he can't be right. I'm like, surely, for 40 years I have not mistaken toilet paper. Something so simple that no one talks about, by the way. Yes, I apologize, this is a dirty sermon, it is. But we're going to keep it clean. We're going to keep it clean. So, excuse me. I'm like, let me ask some folks, because I'm not the one, because I've never done that. I've never put toilet paper on the toilet. I never took the name of it to be, the actual literal toilet paper. So I'm talking to them at the table, and they're like, you know what, that's what we do too. And I'm like, what? There's a whole group of people that I've never met who are putting toilet paper. And I'm thinking, how many more people know this and never shared this with me? How many times did I think I was 100, keeping it real, and I was wrong? Because I was using the seat covers. I thought toilet paper was for you. I never used the seat covers. So I'm sitting frustrated because I'm like, Lord, I don't understand. I'm confused. Because everything you get, like I said, is not 100, it's 80, 20. What I had was 80% of the story. That 20% that was suspect was how you're supposed to use it. But it didn't solve the problem about the seat cover going in the bowl, which was the whole here nor there problem. So my question was, it was a simple question. If the toilet paper was designed for the bowl, what are you supposed to use for you? We need to get to the bottom of this. We need to cover this from front to back. Now that's a bar. I don't know Y'all run it back. Y'all might catch that. Some of my bar catchers. But we got to get to the bottom of this. It's a dirty situation. So they go, you're not supposed to. They go, most people didn't use toilet paper. It was never designed to be used on a person. They go, you got like wet naps and stuff for that. But for you, you're just supposed to use your hand. Okay. That was me. I promise you, I was right there with you. I'm like, I'm not putting my hand. Ask for me in my house. I'm not putting my hand nowhere near that. Because, is this all foreign? Has anybody ever heard this before? Apparently, the paper's for the toilet, and you're supposed to somehow use your hand to clean yourself. I told y'all it was dirty. I tried to warn you.
You don't touch anyone with your left hand.
Because you're using it for, I didn't, 40 years. Thought I was keeping it real. I found out I guess I'm wrong in Arabic. I'm wrong in Arabic, but I'm learning this stuff, and I'm like, I can't do it. Even though now I know the truth, I can't ride with that. I'm going to continue doing what I was doing. Because the way I was taught, you had to wrap your hand 15 times. You had to make it into a thick boxing glove. It had to look like a weapon. Like you were going to war. Right? My mother said, we will not be having chocolate dipped fingertips in this house. Hey, don't look at me. That was Mama. I'm just going off of what she said. So Joshua's leading these Hebrew people. Gotta love that segue. Leading these people over the Jordan. He's giving his last address as the leader of the Egyptians, letting them know this is the receipts of what God has done, and I will no longer be your leader. We're going to go right into verse 14. It says, now fear the Lord and serve him with all faithfulness. Throw away the gods of your ancestors worshipped beyond the Euphrates River and in Egypt, and serve the Lord. But then choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve, whether the gods your ancestors served beyond the Euphrates or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you are living. But as far as me and my household, we will serve the Lord. What he's saying is this. He says, I was always 80-20. But now that I've seen what God has done, now the receipts are in, and everything he said has been true, I can't flip on God. I can't go back to being 80-20. I am now 100% a part of God's vision. This is somebody that came from another man's vision. I can understand the freedom that Joshua feels now. He had to lead 300 to 600 Israelites that were complaining and whining, and his leader is gone. He's leading these people by himself. Another man's vision with 80-20 in his heart. But he wants to keep it 100. He wants to keep it real. Now he's keeping it real with him. Look, this new land we're in, you're going to have some options. You can go with the gods that they served, which didn't serve them very well, obviously, because they got taken over, right? How good are those gods for you if our people just came and took your land like that? They must not be very good gods. You can rock with them. You can go with the gods from your ancestors, the ones who had that slave mentality when they hit the desert, didn't want to leave, and they died in the desert. Serve those gods. Look how well that went, the Egyptian gods. Didn't work out too well, did it? They couldn't split water and, get a whole people into another promised land and keep their word. He said, as for me and my house, I choose to serve the Lord. We are in my house. We get a visit from an old roommate of ours. Her name is Ashley. I love Ashley. She brings her new boyfriend, Ben. He's never met us before in his life. Oh, God help Ben. He doesn't know. In my household, even if it's your first time in my house, I'm me. I can't help myself. We sit down and I'm like, Ben, tell me something. When you use the bathroom. He's like, huh? Ashley's like, oh my God, Pastor Randy. I'm like, I got to know this. When you use the seat, I go, do you put toilet paper on the seat? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, why would you do that, Ben? He goes, because you don't want to sit down on the seat. And if you use the seat cover, it falls in because it hits the water. Ashley goes, well, you're supposed to leave the perforated part of the seat cover up. That way it doesn't hit the water. But I'm like, if it's up, you can't, it doesn't work. That doesn't work for me. I'm not doing that. Ben's like, no, it's toilet paper. You're supposed to use toilet paper. And when you're done, you take the edges of the paper and push them into the bowl. And I'm sitting here like this man's talking from wisdom. He's talking like he's been his whole life using public bathrooms. He knows way more than me about public bathrooms. But I'm still like, I just don't know. I got to preach this sermon. I need some reference. So I called my daughter, my 16-year-old daughter downstairs. My wife is right there. My daughter Kyla comes downstairs. I go, baby girl, Daddy loves you. Tell me something. When you use the bathroom, how do you use the bathroom? What do? I go, do you take the tissue? Oh, let me back up just a little bit. Someone made a statement, I'm not going to say who, but it was only 4 of us in that room before my daughter came downstairs, that you do not wrap your hand in toilet tissue when you use it. They said you just take the tissue, ball it up, and go in there reckless. I cannot. Y'all got to understand me. I can't go in reckless, okay? Because then you come out dirty-handed. I can't be dirty. I told y'all. Okay, French tips were not meant to be chocolate dipped. I don't have French tips, but I did. So I'm like, you can't do that. What are you doing? I'm thinking that's patient zero right there, man. You're the reason why we're all sick in this household. Shame on you. As for me in my house, I will not be. I'm wrapping up tight every time. It needs to look like a boxing glove, like I'm going into a title fight. But she goes, nope, you just ball it up and use it, and that's toss it, and you're done. And I'm thinking, how many people are actually going out there and not wrapping up? And I'm thinking, what have I known my whole life that I thought was 100 that somebody gave me that turned out to be 80 or 20? 80% real, 20% suspect, or 20% suspect, or 20% real, 80%. And I got my daughter down there, and I'm like, baby, how do you do it? Please tell me. And she's like, I don't do either. I just take the tissue and I fold it up. She goes, I fold it up and I use it. I don't wrap it around, I don't ball it. I just fold it into a thick, pad of folding, just like if you're wiping the counter. And I'm sitting there like, wow, who taught you that? She said, nobody, it's the bathroom. She goes, and then I take the rest of the toilet paper and I distribute it around the bowl like she's dealing a deck of cards for spade, like she's playing spade. This is a 16-year-old. I deliberate the sheets around the bowl. And I was done. Because she's 16 years old. I never taught her that. I look at my wife, I'm like, babe, did you teach me? I ain't never taught her that. I'm dead. They're laughing at me, Ben and Ashley. And I'm just like, baby, how did you? I'm like, daughter, my offspring, how did you know that you were supposed to put toilet paper on the bowl? I'm 40 years old. I'm just finding this out a month ago. She goes, duh, everybody. Everybody knows that, Dad. Where have you been? You out there pastoring and preaching, you don't know how to use toilet paper. So, Joshua, he's explained to the Hebrew people that as for me and my family, we will choose to serve the Lord. Y'all can serve whoever you want. The people answered, far be it from us to forsake the Lord to serve other gods. It was the Lord our God himself who brought us up and out, and our parents up out of Egypt, from that land of slavery, and performed those great signs before our eyes. He protected us in our entire journey and among the nations through which we traveled. And the Lord drove out before us all the nations, including the Amorites who lived in the land. We too will serve the Lord because he is our God. Now Joshua knows people. Joshua says, I hear you talking, but I heard a lot of talk over my life. Joshua's not a young man yet. Or no, he's no longer a young man. He's had some time. He goes, I've heard this before. I've heard this before. Joshua said to the people, you are not able to serve the Lord. He is a holy God. He is a jealous God. He will not forgive your rebellion and your sins. He's basically saying, careful what you want, careful what you wish for. If you forsake the Lord, you will serve foreign gods. He will turn and bring disaster on you and make an end of you after he has been good to you. Then Joshua said, you are witnesses against yourself that you have chosen to serve the Lord, meaning you have heard yourself say before me and God that I'm rocking with 100% our Lord who got us here. He goes, I know as soon as I leave, you're going to go right back to 80-20. How many times does that happen, you guys? How many Christians have you been around, or just people who believe, believers, who one minute they are 100, it feels like they're 100% for God. Next post, it don't even take that long. The next social media post, I'm done with this. Where you at, Lord? You haven't shown up for me. Are you there? Really? Really? Was he there all them other times you was thanking him for all the stuff he did? Yeah. Because right now you're making it seem like it wasn't him. Like that was you that did that stuff. That 20% shows up and it peaks up in all of us. And what Joshua is saying is, I know that you guys just said that with your mouth, but you don't believe it in your heart. And if you do, someone's got to hold you accountable. So you are all witnesses to what you just said. The people replied, yes, we are witnesses. Now then, Joshua said, throw away foreign gods that are among you and yield your hearts to the Lord, the God of Israel. And the people said to Joshua, we will serve the Lord our God and obey him. They are in, they're saying they're in. On that day, Joshua made a covenant with the people. And there at Shechem, he reaffirmed for them decrees and laws. Joshua recorded these things in the book of the law of God. Then he took a large stone, set it up there under the oak tree near the holy place of the Lord. He says to them, see, This stone will be a witness against all of us, meaning whenever you see this stone, remember what you said. This is the reminder of what you said you were going to do, because he knows they're going to forget. Then Joshua dismissed the people, each to their own inheritance. And then it talks about how he lives to be 110 years old and he finally gets married. But this was Joshua saying goodbye. He's saying, I don't know. You guys are saying, what you're saying sounds good to me. I'm sure it sounds good to God, but I can't speak for everybody else. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. I told y'all this amen. It's okay if y'all say amen to that. Amen. I told y'all this 2020 vision, right? We've been talking about it for 7 years. Now everybody is using it. You're going to hear 2020 in every church you go to for the rest of the year. Be ready for it. Not going to hear toilet paper sermons. That's only nursery rhyme. 2013, me and my wife, we had just gotten saved in 2012, right? Both of us. We go on our 10-year anniversary in Hawaii. We come back. The man who got us saved was our next door neighbor, a man named Dave Early. Some of y'all know this story. This man has a vision. He comes all the way out here to Las Vegas, and him and his wife and his team of 16 and some other folks that helped them out, they were rocking with God's vision to see a sin city transformed into a grace city. But how could you do that? How could you get 100,000 people to accept Christ and follow God? Where would they go? You got 100,000 people saved tomorrow. Where would they go? What church they going to go to? They can't fit in here. We don't have enough pizza. Don't have enough toilet paper in the library for all those people either, just so you know. You would need, maybe you had 100 churches and each one pushed their congregation out to 1,000. Maybe you can fit them all. But now you got to find 100 churches, don't you? Where are you going to find 100 churches in Las Vegas that will actually get along and work together? And that's not enough. Pastor Dave says, no, they have to do outreach and pray together. They have to be unified in prayer and outreach. And you would need time to get to the people because the community needs to become one with the church. And vice versa. The church and community should be one. You should not have a community that can move a church out and not be changed or afflicted. Same thing for the church. You should not be able to move your church from the community and, have the community leave your church and your church not be changed. Because if that's the case, you can put anybody in there. Instead of Nourishing Vine, you can put, ABC church, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't change anything. But when you're a part of the community, they need you and you need them. You are family. He said in order for that to happen, you need time. 100 days. He says, imagine the city of Las Vegas for 100 days. If every day one church went out there for 2 hours and served the community. Fed them, loved them, just said, we love you. If you found 100 churches, you could probably pull it off, right? This was back in July of 2013. He puts together this group of people called Spartans. Now, I'm sitting there with my wife. We just got saved a year ago. Imagine how this sounds to me. Imagine how this sounds to me. You want to try to get 100 churches? We can barely get 2 churches in Las Vegas to work together. You want the community to come out and do church stuff? We were atheists over a year ago. I'm looking at this like this is more 20-80. 20% real, keeping it real, 100, 80% suspects. I'm like, how do you do this? He says, it's not us, it's God.
That's right.
He says, if it was my vision, no way.
That's right.
But when it's God's vision, he goes, in 7 years it will be done. Yes. 7 years.
Yes.
Amen. So what do you think he called it? 7 years ago, he called it 2020 vision. So we were first. Anybody that was wondering, yes, it was us. Pastor Dave gives it to us. And we notice as we're trudging along trying to find these churches, and I've been to well over 100 churches, we've served so many churches. We were able to get to 30 before we finally were like, we can't do no more churches. That the people that were with us, that generation was dropping off left and right. We'd look around and we'd say, all those people that were rooting, just like they were rooting for Joshua, we got you, Pastor. We're with you, Pastor. We're going to see Sin City transform to Grace City. We're gone. Either they, grew up. Either they left, got transferred, got promotions. For whatever reason, that vision that was his, when he left, he stayed with my wife and me. That rest of that team, they were done. Why would we follow another man's vision? They went from 100% to 80%. We were with him. But as soon as he left, that 20% said, you know what? Let's go do something else. We'll let God finish this whole 2020 thing. God only had 2. It went from a team of Lord knows how many to 2. Me and my wife, don't say wow, because it's about to get real good. This is where the good news comes in, because we were the most skeptical of anybody in that room. Everyone in that room was more saved than us. Everybody for that whole period, Frog was there, was more godly than us. They've been walking with Jesus for so long and they believed everything. We believe. If we put a stone out in front of them, they'd be witnesses to what they said. Until you look around now and realize not one of them is out here doing this. But those two, like Joshua and Caleb, they believed 80%, and then the 20% was faith. We had faith. We said, you know what? If it's just us, I have 20% of faith that God will find a way to help us complete another man's vision, because it was never mine. I wish I could take credit for this, you guys. It's brilliant. I want to see this city on fire for God. I want to see communities alive with churches that have been in their community the whole time, but they've never known about them, or they never went to them, or they might have just thought they were whack, or they don't like somebody in that church, but now that church is coming to me for 2 hours. It's loving on me. I'm representing my community for 2 hours. I love it.
Amen.
I love it.
Beautiful.
I love it. And 70 churches away, knowing that this all starts in June. The timeline is June 6th to September 13th of this year. 70 churches away, it's all God. I am no longer 80-20, I promise you. I am 100% locked in.
Amen. Amen.
And look what God did.
Yes.
In that travel, in that 7-year travel, we met people like Frog, like Ira, Spartans for Christ. We've met people like Rain, her family, her mother. Number one, I will always call him number one, because I can see for him what he can't even see for him. And one day I'm not going to have to do this no more. One day he's going to get it together.
Yes,
and I'm not going to have to do this no more. I
Amen.
can kind of sit back and get a break and be sick.
Right.
Because he's going to be out here doing this for me. People like 3D and Minister Shiloh. All the faces that I get a chance to see every Sunday. When no one else comes, whether we're outside that park with locusts hitting us in the face while we're preaching, wind and rain blowing over the podium while we're trying to preach, speakers falling, or inside this library with public bathrooms that I just taught you how to use properly. Right? All the little ones that are like, we're with you. God gave us an army. I woot. He gave us an army that I couldn't. Most of y'all, I see you here and there. But outside of that, I'm like, the only time I see is when you're out there doing God's work. And it's beautiful, because that means we don't have to do it. God is that 100%, y'all. He really
Yes, he is.
100% belief in God is better than 80% in any man or woman. And that's a fact. That's a living fact. I love and pray for everybody that was a part of that vision, because I understand that they did what they were meant to do. If he didn't move them out of the way, like the generation of Israelites that couldn't cross over that Jordan, it would have stunted the growth of us.
Yes.
We wouldn't have had a position. If there's always 10 people serving behind the table, when are you supposed to get back there? Right? When is your chance to shine? When do you get to say, Lord, I'm your soldier for today. For today, as for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord, and the world's going to know about it. This is our time.
Yes.
What I realized is everybody else that was on board wasn't from here. They was from everywhere else. They went home, which makes sense. We live here. I've been here my whole life. If we can't step up for 2 hours and say, I love you, Jesus loves you, let's eat and have a good time, it's a shame on us.
Amen.
They weren't meant to be here. Pastor Dave was not meant to stay here. If he did, we'd look at him. And we say, okay, it really was his vision. No, it was God's, because God did it without him.
Yeah.
His part is done.
Amen.
Their parts are finished. Now it's our time. Y'all, I'm so excited. I warned you last week. I said I'm going to talk about every week 100 days of summer, because it's coming June 6th through September 13th. You guys, we are going to feast. We're going to have so much fun. There's going to be other churches throwing it. Yes, we'll get a couple days in there that's going to represent us in our neighborhood. You know we got to do it right. But for the most of this, you guys, my question is this. As for me and my house, we've already done it for 7 years. We ride. You know, Frog, Ira, Pastor Rain, Pastor Gary, who's been here since the beginning. We ride. Mr. Shot, we doing this no matter what. As for me and my house, we're going to serve. We're going to get out there and show them who we are, who Nourishing Vine Church is. What's your role? Find your role. I know it's not your vision. It wasn't mine either. But when it's something God is doing, you want to be a part of it.
Amen.
You don't want to sit there and look and say, why didn't we? I know I could have got out there, at least visited a couple churches. I know I could have went out there and enjoyed some of that food and that festival. I know I could have represented Nourishing Vine at all these places that have never heard of a little church in the park or a church in the library. That's what I'm asking you guys to do. When this is all said and done, no, I'm not done with you because you're my family. But I'm letting you know right now, Whatever you do outside of this, that's on you. Take a good look at where it got you. Whatever God you serve, if it was you, some people say, I've always served the Lord. I don't believe you. I think that's you're not keeping it 100 with me. Sounds like you serve yourself 80% and the Lord 20. Others is opposite. I served the Lord 80%. Well, then yourself was 20. Right now I'm asking for 100% for 100 days. I want you to serve our Lord for us, for our church, for yourselves. June 6th to September 13th. I want you to show up. I'm asking you. Not all of them, because that's impossible. I don't even know if I can get to all 100, but I'm going to try. I might have to quit my job. Pretty good chance I might have to do that. But what I'm saying is go out there and represent our church, our family. Let them know that the Spartans are in the building. It's simple.